Good evening, YouTubers, and everybody else out there in the world who, doesn't spend their life behind a computer screen like I do. um, we're trying something new tonight. Mr. Lawrence Knight will be joining me, and this may become a. You want to mute your phone, dude?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's notifying me that we're on.
This may become a regular, semi-regular. We haven't discussed that fully yet, but possibly weekly, possibly bi-weekly. We'll figure it out as we go along. Kind of new show, and so we will see what we shall see. New show's called Abyssal Musings because I'm trying to kind of keep a theme going here with the titles because I'm sappy like that, but yeah. Anyway, so to my co-host, Lawrence Knight, welcome.
Thank you.
So how's it going?
You know what? I can't complain. It's been a good week. Summer's kind of even though I love the summer, I also love the fall and the winter, and the weather over here is starting to change, so it's not as hot anymore. But really, the summer really wasn't bad where I'm at.
Mhm.
Compared to where I came from. So like I said, I can't complain.
Yeah. No, I kind of get that. I mean, where I live, it's summer's hot. It's
Yeah.
hot. I mean, it's not like Death Valley hot by any means, but it's pretty warm. But it's short. It's very short, and our fall and our spring are also very short. Our winter is pretty much 9 months long, and, it's less than pleasant. Good evening, Ozzy. Welcome.
You sure you don't live where you live at
Well, I
the
live
North
out
Pole,
in the.
right?
I live, yeah, near enough, near enough. Well, I like to tell people that where I live, you take the worst parts of the Old West and the worst parts of the Frozen North, and smash them together.
That's a nightmare.
Yeah. So, no, I live out on the high plains, man, and it's the winters out here. They're not fun. They're not fun, and they're very long. And I had a coworker today. She was saying, "Oh, I can't wait for fall. I can't wait for this month to be over, for October to be over, because I love November and that whole season." I was like, "You can go straight to hell, lady." and she goes, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And I said, "Well, see, when you get to November, you're that much closer to February, and February out here sucks." you know?
Hey, Ozzy's saying, do we want to compare Manitoba winners? No,
No,
Ozzy, I don't.
dude, you. I will give you that, Ozzy. You win.
You can
You
have
win.
that.
Canada is fairly colder. Actually, what's Celsius? What's 30 minus 30 Celsius in Fahrenheit? Because I don't know the conversion.
You know what? I don't either.
I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look it up right now. Let's see. Minus 30 C in Fahrenheit. Oh, minus 22 degrees in Fahrenheit. Oh shit, dude, it gets colder than that here. I was like, that's an average day in December.
You both got me beat.
But we have high winds pretty much that whole time too, and so that contributes to a lot
That
of the
makes it
cold.
even worse. Yeah.
So because we're high elevation and there's nothing out here to stop the wind, so yeah, our peak February cold usually gets with the wind chill can get down to like minus 40 Fahrenheit, which again, I'm not sure what the conversion is there. Actually, I think when you get down to those temperatures, Fahrenheit and Celsius are more or less on the same level.
Don't the pipes start freezing when it gets around there? I mean,
Oh
where
yeah,
I'm at, the coldest
yes,
it
yes,
got
they
over
do.
here was minus 30, and man, the news they were like, "Hey, check your pipes, do this, do that." I was like,
Yeah, yeah, yes, they do. And yeah, Ozzy, I think, yeah, it gets near the same. Um, they do. We have to our sprinkler system. We have to make sure it's completely drained. Otherwise, we end up like we had a waterfall looking icicle on the front of our house for like months into spring. and the beginning of summer because there was a little bit of moisture and a little bit of drip on one of the faucets on the front of the house,
Hmm.
and of course it's raised up because we're in a split level. Uh, and so the faucet itself is probably about 4 feet off the ground. So we just had this chunk of ice on the side of the house for months because it was on the west side of the house, so the sun never hit it. and, and that was because we'd left a little bit of flow in there, and you don't want to do that. We actually had to ended up replacing all those fittings here a little bit ago.
Yeah, Ozzy's saying that record no wind chill -43. That polar vortex. Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Ozzy, for because that polar vortex came down from Canada in 2019 also and hit me where I'm at, and I
Right.
had just moved, so I moved right into it, and I was like, really, I was
Yeah.
like, really.
See, we're right smack in the middle of where the jet stream dips down. So, we get all kinds of fun stuff from the north. It's not quite as bad where I live. There are towns that are a little ways away that get it much worse because of the lay of the terrain.
Mm,
Because it's not like 100% flat. It's a little hilly and whatnot. But and there are a couple of places where the terrain just like there's a town not far from here where it's all the bad weather skips right over them, and it all of it smashes into the town just past them. Yeah, and it's just it's an awful situation.
I'll bet.
Honestly, man, I cannot remember the coldest. I have been in very, very, very cold weather several times in my life, in different parts of the country. So I couldn't tell you when the coldest for me was, but that's pretty freaking cold, man. That's 58 Celsius is minus 58 Celsius is pretty close to minus 58, minus 60 Fahrenheit, and that's only 10 degrees away from when steel becomes brittle.
Mm.
Steel becomes brittle at minus 70 Fahrenheit, and you can snap it like a twig with your hands. I mean, you want to wear gloves because your hands will, you know,
Yeah.
adhere to the steel. But
Well, at that point, I'm not gonna bother going outside because if it'll do that to steel, what's it gonna do to me?
oh yeah, no, it's a bad idea to be out there. Actually, I think Ozzy's right. He said cold air comes from Russia.
Yeah.
There are places in Russia where it gets that cold regularly. Although I do believe that the coldest spot on Earth is in Canada. It's in the Northern Territory somewhere. Right up around the edge of the Arctic Circle, I believe.
You gotta be a special type of tough to live in Canada.
Hmm.
Certain spots. Me and the cold, we don't get along so well. I can stand it to a point, but mm-mm.
Yeah. So Oz, you guys are cold all the time, then, huh? Well, I mean, I suppose that depends on what part of Colorado you're talking about when you talk about the lows, because the flatlands out in the east generally have temperatures that are a lot more on the lines of like Kansas and that part, and Nebraska, which both border that area. And then further south, obviously, they get towards New Mexico, Texas, and Oklahoma, and it's a little warmer there. But up in the high country, yeah, it gets cold. So is it inside? Okay, yeah, it's but I mean, it's in Canada, so I do find it interesting that the hottest place and the coldest place on Earth are both on the same continent.
Interesting.
Because statistically speaking, um, Death Valley in the Mojave is the hottest place on Earth.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been there. That's that's where I was living originally. Not in the Mojave Desert, but well, I guess in certain parts of my life, I have lived in the Mojave Desert. It's not fun. It
Yeah,
is
I
not
don't know why you would do that on purpose.
work.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, why is it that all the work is in the harshest places?
Because nobody wants to live there.
Yeah, right? There
I
was a
mean,
time when the U.S. government, I don't know if they still do this, but they used to pay people to live there. Like everybody who lived there got a stipend for living there because nobody wants to move to Alaska.
Yeah, well, now they figure it's a privilege to work for the government. So
Yeah, well, I
yeah,
mean, good benefits, I guess.
I guess.
Good benefits as long as you toe that line. Which, by the way, for all of you out there who are listening and watching who don't know, that's why I don't show my face. I work in local government. You know? So, and I like to be able to speak freely, but in order to do that and keep my job, I need to keep the two things as separate as possible.
Yeah.
So, because they watch everything we do. You know, uh, yeah, it can get pretty ugly. So, all right. Well, now that we've spent 11 minutes nearly talking about the weather.
Wait, hold on. Ozzy saying they get a $2 an hour bonus to work in northern Manitoba. Is it worth it?
Is that Canadian money?
That's
I
what
mean,
I'm-
yeah. So 40 Celsius positive
Oh
degrees.
shoot!
That's pretty close to what 90, right?
4 liter
Fahrenheit.
milk runs near $12.
Holy shit! Really? Man, that sucks.
Mm-mm.
I haven't bought milk.
I'll use almond milk at that point.
Yeah, it's not milk, dude. But
Yeah, I know.
it's they should call it almond juice.
Yeah, that's pretty much
It's
what it is.
because
Almond water.
I'm gonna say this one more time for all those who haven't heard me say this. Um, if it didn't come from a mammal's teat, it's not milk. Almond milk, soy milk, coconut milk, none of those things are milk.
You can close your eyes and pretend it is.
Yeah,
You can
slap like a
almost
rubber
taste it.
nipple on it or something, but it's it's not milk. It isn't. What
Yeah,
was that thing? Did you ever watch Parks and Recreation?
a long time ago.
So there's a line in it where Ron Swanson is one of my favorite characters. Talks about milk, specifically skim milk. He said there's only one thing that I hate more than lying, and it's skim milk because it's water that's lying about being milk.
Yeah, it's true though,
It is.
and people still drink it. You might as well just turn on the faucet at your home and
Mhm.
save yourself save you some money and the trip down to the grocery store.
Shit, man, the calcium in our water supply here turns the water white half the time anyway.
Oh,
No, you don't drink tap water out here.
but how do you brush your teeth? I mean, I guess you
Well,
do it
you
with bottled
spit it
water.
out. You don't like swallow your leavings from brushing your teeth.
Right.
But you don't drink the water. You don't want to drink too much of it. You can drink a little bit of it, but you want to get water softeners. You want to get filters. That sort of thing. Brita is great for it, but they only last so long because the calcium deposits out here are so heavy and so thick that it'll a good Brita filter might last you a year, maybe. And that's just because we've just got our water is very, very mineral heavy, and we live on shit soil. It's not good for farming,
Yeah.
you know, uh, which is fine. But there isn't a faucet in the entire city that doesn't have a crust of white on it that'll never go away. It is just calcium, but there's so much of it that it's kind of ridiculous. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up. I'm aware of the comic strip, but I haven't read too much of it.
Pickles comic strip. I've never heard of it. I
Yeah,
have to
it
check it
used
out.
to be pretty regular in the newspapers, but I haven't picked up a newspaper in years. So, uh, yeah, it's kind of a thing Larry and I have been talking about. Gary, it just sort of materialized tonight. Apologies. I actually probably should have gotten a hold of you and let you know about that ahead of time. That was my bad. I was kind of, it was right after work for me, and I was trying to get the stupid thing set up. So here we are.
Yeah, and besides, it's not mandatory. So we, I called you the other night, and you were sleeping. You know, so
Fair enough, man. Hey, look, if for our regular viewers, man, if these pop up streams come up at like inconvenient times and you have other shit to do, no worries. It's not like
yeah,
they're going anywhere. Um, I'm not concerned about that. I just join us if you can, and if you can't, I have there's no issue with that. I
yeah,
understand everybody's got lives. I have a day job too. That's why we're doing it. Since we're doing this in the middle of the week, that's why it's as late as it is because I got off work like 40 minutes ago. So, uh, here we are. But yeah, no, this might be kind of a regular thing. We'll see how it goes.
yeah. And don't worry, Carrie. You'll get invited. You'll get an invite to the cool kids party at some point.
Don't be a dick.
I'm just messing with it. I'm just messing with it.
Oh man. But welcome to the party. Now that you're here. Uh, Terry, the we just got done talking about the weather for like 15 minutes, so there was that.
Yeah.
And then I was talking about hard water in my tap.
Hey,
We're just kind of talking, man.
I'm
So,
wondering, did you and Carrie see the email that I sent a few hours ago?
the one about the lioness and her
Yeah.
first fight. Yes, I did, and that was hilarious. I didn't watch the whole thing. I got to the slow motion replay, and I was just like, oh Jesus, that looks like it hurts.
I call it Amira's first fight.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, tonight I think probably we'll just start off with Larry and I. Perhaps we'll add people later. We'll see how it goes. Um,
Mandatory. Just so you know, we already know that Miss Snoozing has been watching because she's already started messing with his channel. What was it? What, 2 weeks ago? Did
Not
you
even.
do a video and
Um,
she hit it?
yeah, there was that, and then I've actually had some issues. Joshua Herpelsheimer has been trying to leave comments, and they've been disappearing. And that's not just my channel. I've seen it happen on the mirrors. I've also seen it happen on in other places. Like Yellow Flash is having it. He got hit bad with that the other day. They just hit everything under. Um, so when you go into the comments, then you hit the three lines at the top, and you can select newest. And when you do select newest first, it brings up all the shit you can't see.
I didn't know that.
And that's assuming that it hasn't been removed. I think a couple of Josh's comments were actually removed because I can't get to them. Um, and that's just what I've seen here recently. It's just kind of, and they are doing it across the board. It's not just political channels. It's all over the place, except of course anything that the MS or the mainstream media runs, or any of the big media outlets or moguls like Disney and such. All of them, all their shit's up there, except when they don't like what they're seeing, and then they will remove comments. So, uh, for the record, for all my people here, unless you're a sex bot, I'm not going to remove your shit.
Yeah.
Even if I don't like what you have to say, I will not remove it. If it disappears, I guarantee you, and I promise you, and I give you my word, it was not me, and it was not my mods.
And also too with that court case decision, I noticed that I think they're kind of backing up a little bit off of what they're doing. I got that text message you sent me the other day. What was that this morning?
Maybe, I don't know. I sent a lot of text messages.
I was like, what? Jack Murphy.
Oh, right, yeah. So that happened. So I was on Twitter the other day, and I was scrolling through a conversation. I don't even remember what the conversation was. It was something dumb. And there was a comment that was hidden from me, and I was like, "What the hell?" And I noticed that it was there was a reply to it that had the at for the person who left the comment that was missing.
Mm.
And I was like, well, I'm gonna click on that and see what it is. And as it turns out, it was Jack Murphy. Um, it was it was Jack Murphy's account, and he had banned me. He had blocked me rather. I got blocked by Jack Murphy.
That's hilarious.
I don't even know when that would have happened because I haven't seen any of his stuff for so long. And I was just like, he must have blocked me because I either followed somebody he disagrees with, which I could see him doing, just going down the list of follows and banning everybody or blocking everybody. I keep saying banning; it's a different thing over there. Um, or I'm pretty sure there were one or two tweets I added him at that were pretty rude, but I have to go real far back in my timeline to find them. That might have had something to do with it, but yeah, I got Jack Murphy blocked me on Twitter. That made my whole goddamn day.
I'll bet it did. That would have made mine.
I've never even directly interacted with the guy except for maybe tagging him in a tweet or something.
You know what? I did see something about that earlier today. There's another YouTuber that is suing. I'm trying to remember his name. Nate the lawyer is suing someone. Apparently, the guy was he's famous for harassing people online.
Mhm.
He has some kind of PR company, and he spread some pretty nasty untruths about Nate the lawyer. I haven't seen a lot of his videos. I've seen some, um,
Oh,
but
okay, okay. Wait, yeah, I'm gonna send Kerry the link, and he's gonna get on here and he's gonna explain this
yeah,
because I'm curious now.
yeah, I'm curious about that too.
Let's
You're
see.
gonna have to carry an explanation over here, and it's mandatory.
Yeah, give me a second. It's I'm gonna send it to your email, man. Uh, because yeah, the whole Jack Murphy thing, man, that was a just a mess. And I don't normally like bringing up old shit or you know, and I'm not gonna shit on him too much because that's not really what I do here. But um, even so, you know, that whole thing was was a fucking mess. Let's see. All right, typing this shit out one at a time because I'm using my phone to do my email. This is super efficient, you guys. I am just reveling in the awesomeness of technology. I believe that's correct. Carrie, let me know if you can't get in. And all that nonsense, but the link should be in your email.
Yeah, I suspect that he just blocked you because you were attached to somebody else.
Yeah, I imagine that probably was because, you know, like I follow Ricada, I follow Sydney Watson. For a while, I
Hmm.
even followed Elijah Schaefer, although not so much anymore. Um, he was recently,
Oh, he's saying he can't. I feel your pain right now. I can't get in tonight.
oh, fair enough, fair enough. You can't do it tonight. That's fine. Then disregard the link. So, but if you can, yes, I do follow Sydney. I've been following Sydney almost as long as I've been following Amira. You know, the I only know who Jack Murphy is because of Sydney, and I used to follow Tim Pool.
Yeah, and
Otherwise, I would have no idea who the guy is.
I've never been to Australia, so I don't know who Sydney is.
Well, she doesn't live in Australia, man. She lives in Texas.
Oh, you messed up my joke. Your pain in
Oh,
regards to using the phone.
right, right. Well, you should still be able to if you can access your email through your phone. You should still be able to uh, use that to get into the StreamYard.
Sydney and Jack had a bit of a tip. Yes, they did on Tim Pool's podcast, didn't they?
No, no, it was on. She was on a podcast with Elijah Schaefer called "You Are Here Through the Blaze Network,"
Mm.
and they had their own channel and everything and all that stuff. And I think most of those podcasts are still up. Um, and there was a super chat that was sent by a member of the War Band, which is dun, da, 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 Undead Chronics guys. that brought up some shit from his past, and he got a little upset about it, and so they moved on. And then they sent another one. By the way, the guy's name is like Mr. Dick and Balls. Yeah. He later changed his name to Dr. Dick and Balls. But yeah, and anyway, sent a second super chat asking about an article that Jack Murphy had written some years prior to him becoming famous for his Democrat to Deplorables book, which is what he was always pushing, that in the liminal order, which is his, let me pay me a bunch of money to let me teach you how to be a real manly man kind of pyramid scheme thing. You know what? Oh, okay. All right. You know what, man? We can talk about this another time. But long story short, they had a falling out. We can get into it another time. But yeah, no, I do. Australia doesn't exist. There's some people who really believe that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a whole thing. It's a whole mess. I even bought one of the damn hoodies that she was selling after that. The ones that said heartfelt on it. And I got to tell you, man, it's one of the most comfortable hoodies I have ever owned in my life. It's
Really?
really, really comfortable. Yeah, it's not too thick, and it's like made of some really nice material. And the only problem I'm having with it is that the silk screening they didn't take real well. So it's starting to chip away a little bit. I haven't worn it that often, but yeah, got one for me and got one for my sister's husband. Because he's a big fan of that stuff too. Lauren Southern married a national. A national what? She married an American. Did she marry an American? I think she's living in America.
What part? I mean, it can't be Florida because Florida's a myth.
7-1. Good to see you, buddy. And also, Florida, I don't believe is a myth, but Florida man is beyond a myth. He's a legend.
Isn't that where that isn't Florida where what's the name of that monster? You have Bigfoot, the Wendigo. Is that in Florida?
No, that's a Canadian thing.
Is it?
Yeah, that's a Canadian thing. That comes from stories of mountain men who went bibbledy out in the Arctic tundra, and they turned to cannibalism to survive, and then they became like these howling, Yeti-like things. But yeah, no, that the Wendigo comes from I think First Nations lore, doesn't it?
I don't know.
So maybe our resident Canadian can tell us. But I'm pretty sure that's a Canadian thing, like Champy.
Or it was Ozzy wearing a suit, wearing like some kind of giant suit or something, screaming at people and throwing snowballs at them.
Oh, are you referring to when she was out blockading those ships full of quote unquote refugees? That whole thing.
I didn't even hear about that.
Yeah. It was a few years ago. Inuit. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because I think they've got legends about a kind the Loup-garou, a kind of werewolf up there too. But that was more. The Inuits are more Western, and the stories that the Loup-garou come from, which is the French name for them, from the French traders and fur trappers and soldiers and whatnot, is more towards the eastern side of Canada, I think. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure. I know a little bit about crypto shit, cryptozoology, I guess. Yes. Well, fair enough. I don't know much more about that than what she said and what other people have said. And, it gets to a point, Carrie, as you know, where it becomes kind of difficult to extricate any kind of real truth when people start slinging accusations and names at each other.
That's
You know,
true.
so I don't know the actual facts on that. I know what I've heard, but it's Mothman is Eastern U.S., I believe, right? Maybe
Who?
so. Maybe. Oh, you know what? Mothman might be
Mothman.
Florida.
Let me check. Let me check that.
Might be Florida, because north of there you got the Jersey Devil, and in Mexico you got the Chupacabra.
West Virginia folklore.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. There's some weird shit out there, but yeah, the whole Wendigo thing comes from First Nation stuff in Canada. I know that. Um, and they were supposedly men once. So, well, fair enough.
We'll have to do a series on that.
Yeah,
Now I'm curious.
yeah. So, but and guys, here's the thing: we're not always going to agree on everything. But that's fine. Like I ain't a leftist. I ain't cutting anybody out of my life over disagreements. you know. So, um,
And I know plenty of them too.
oh, she married in Australia. I don't know too much about her married life. She doesn't talk too much about her husband when I have seen her stuff. But I don't follow her a lot. I usually only see her when she's guesting on somebody else's show. I've seen her on Tim Pool occasionally, and then um, she did the "You Are Here" thing with Elijah and Sydney, and then I she's done a few of Chrissy Mayer's simcasts, which are those can be entertaining, but they're not always entertaining. Sometimes it's just girly stuff, and I have no interest in that. They talk about hair and nails. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go watch something that can hold my attention.
You know what? I have a question,
hmm
and even people, everybody in the chat can answer it too. And I see this in the chat a lot. And for me, even though it's it can be looked at as a political issue, but it's not for me. Not in my case. But I always see anytime that you don't agree with Democrats or leftists or whatnot, they call you alt right, and all you ever hear is alt right for everything. And
I
I'm
got called
wondering,
all right today.
yeah, but I have to ask, and I'm gonna ask one on this the first chance I get. If anybody and everybody who disagrees with you is alt right, then what is right? Because there's no you guys are either saying they're either on your side or they're alt right. So then what is right?
hmm
you know, then what is right?
Yeah, well, one of my co-hosts on Screaming into the Void Cat was having a discussion. She was talking about so she does a thing on Fridays with another group of YouTubers on a channel called Legion Talk, where it's kind of like a low key Friday Night Tights. They get views like we get views over here, and it's a little bit more intimate with the chat, so they can have the conversations and all that stuff. And so she's been watching The Rings of Power on Amazon, and she hates it. And so she actually put out a long, detailed review and put it on there. And she's a verified person who has watched the thing, can prove that they've watched the thing, because they are also to quote unquote cut down on review bombing, especially negative review bombing. They don't
Mm-hmm.
have it. They don't positive review bombing. They don't do anything about, but which is why there's so many 10 out of 10s on there. So she proved that she watched it. She wrote out her thing. For the first few days, they just took everybody's shit off and then started eking them out a little bit. She finally got her review up there, and it was up there for a little bit, and then they took it down because it was a negative review. And she went into why she reviewed it and all that stuff. I haven't read it myself, but I've talked to her enough times, and I think you guys have heard her go off on it a little bit.
Oh man, yeah,
Um,
heavily.
she's not happy about the show. So this guy whose Twitter account is less than a day old, and all he's done is attack people relentlessly for no reason other than to start shit. Calls himself Well, I'm not going to say his name. I don't want to give him that
You
kind of
only
shit.
give them that clout, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, so he said some shit about why is the alt right so incredibly stupid? It's because you're angry about women and minorities. And I was like, you realize the OP is a woman and a minority, right? It's like, what are you doing, man? Nate's memes, welcome in. Welcome in. Oh, and on the subject of the whole Wendigo thing, Ozzy corrected something for me here. He said that the skunk ape is the Florida version of Bigfoot, which I think he's right about. It's been a minute since I've heard that term, so
So what is like a gorilla that doesn't take showers?
kind of yeah. I mean, something like that. I imagine that anything that's that hairy and lives in the woods and is more or less a hominid probably doesn't smell that great.
All
Uh,
right.
so he's like, you say that as if it prevents people from being part of the alt right, and so I said, define alt right. And anyway, so he came at me later. He says, "Oh, now I see why you're defending so hard," because he went and he looked up my follows. Now I only follow about 60 some odd people on Twitter
Mm.
because most of them I either don't know or I don't care to get to know, or I just I'm not really into you know doing that sort of thing. So he lists RK Brian Kinnell lives at TikTok, and that's as far as he goes. He goes, "You're a full blown alt right chud." So that's just said whatever you say, Jack. But yeah, it was the first time all day that anybody's called me alt right. It's pretty hilarious. Because I was like, no, I was defending a small Arab woman from you. So I don't see how that makes me alt right, but whatever.
Well, I guess they figure it's anybody who doesn't agree with them is automatically outright
No,
one
and
of the.
that's it. And this guy is just I've checked his account too, and everything that he's posted has been in the last day, and it's been attacking people on the right, or even in the mid range.
I'm wondering if it's like a shield account, so to speak, for somebody, for someone who, you know, a Hillary support.
That's good. Excuse me, I
You
forgot to
know,
hit mute there.
it's funny. Ever since that election, and I'm not even saying this as a joke, but every time that I see or hear about Hillary Clinton, ever since 2016, what pops in my head is the videos that I saw of all those people that were crying. Like as the election went on, you could just see they were just cheering and acting like they had already won. They're like, "Yeah, we got it," and then slowly you could just see the happiness just drain out of them. And then when she lost, just they were just crying, and I don't know why that just it's just ever since that day, I cannot see Hillary Clinton or hear her name without thinking about those videos of all the people crying.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
and there's some frat boys almost got beat up because they did something stupid. Over at UCLA when Trump won, a bunch of frat boys ran out. They ran out of the fraternity and started talking trash, and they were saying a bunch of racist stuff and some other things, not realizing that everybody out the street was a minority, so to speak.
Yeah, Nate's memes. I just let it go with that, man. He didn't have anything worth pursuing on that. It was just it caught me on my lunch break, like I told Kat, and because unlike most lefties, I have a job. Uh, but yeah, it was just kind of an amusing little diversion, I guess. Um, it's first of all, I got to say this, okay? So I'm a fan of 80s horror movies,
Hmm.
right? I loves me some 80s horror schlock. The cheesier, the better, right? I take issue with the left's use of the word chud.
Oh yeah, because of
Yeah,
the
because
old
yeah,
one.
there are two movies, Chud and Chud 2, and they're
Yeah.
acronyms for cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
Right.
about like zombie type homeless people that eat people in the subways of New York. You know, and those were fun movies, and they are making it difficult for me to continue to enjoy that.
Well, part of their fun is taking away yours.
Right,
So,
right. Chopping Mall is a classic. Chopping Mall is a classic
I've never
movie.
heard of that one.
It is no, dude. It's about a bunch of teenagers, and they get it's these teenagers that get locked in a mall overnight, and the mall security system are these like kill bots that go fucking crazy.
Hey, wait a minute! It's a Five Nights at Freddy's. Basically, the newest one that came out. Some kid gets stuck, and all of the robots and stuff go nuts, and they go through the whole place trying to find him.
Yeah, I don't know. As far as I know, Five Nights at Freddy's was like a fever dream about Chuck E. Cheese. It's just it's a thing. Yeah, close enough. Carrie says my kid liked that stuff, but I was just like, I don't know. Although Nick Cage did put out a movie called something Wonderland. What the hell was it called? It was he doesn't say a word in the entire movie,
Mm.
but he plays a guy who's like paid to go in and like take care of it and clean it up and all that stuff, and all the animatronics come to life, and he's got to fight him to the death.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's pretty recent too. I think it came out last year. Willy's Wonderland. That's it. Yeah, Chud is a classic, and the left is ruining it for me. Like you can't just call anybody a Chud. You have to know for a fact that they're butt ugly and they eat people and they live underground, right?
Right.
You know? It's gotta fit all the criteria. And as far as I know, the only ones pushing cannibalism are the left. So fuck you, dude.
Yeah. Did you hear about that? Well,
Uh,
I'll say that for Saturday. It's one of the things that
yeah,
I
yeah.
heard
Keep
about.
that for Amira's show, I think. But yeah, no, I did hear some shit about that. But yeah, Nick Cage. That's right. Nick Cage does some crazy work, and the guy, I have to say this. Nick Cage always plays Nicolas Cage. He always plays Nicolas Cage. He's not the greatest actor in the world, but he is one of the most entertaining actors in the world. I will give him that. Um, from his horrifically bad Southern accent in Con Air, all the
Mhm.
way up to he recently did one called The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, where he plays a caricaturized version of himself.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose it could. Suppose it counts. You are what you eat, though, right?
Yeah.
That's why I'm an asshole.
Well, now we know what you eat.
But I need a soundboard. Yeah, I haven't seen that one either. I haven't seen everything he's done. There was a while I was really put off his movies because of the remake of The Wicker Man, which is awful. If you want to watch a movie about like weird ass cults that descend from Norwegian pagans sacrificing people, the original was a better movie. It just was.
Yeah, I heard about that, and then there was the Nicolas Cage version, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, the one where he's like, oh God, the bees, they're in my eyes, the bees." You know what? I mean, as far as Nick Cage moments go, that was up there with all-time greats. But that movie sucks. And yes, Ozzy Soylent Green is set in the far distant future year of 2022. Almost like Chuck Heston was trying to warn us about something.
Yeah, I wonder what that was about.
Yeah, it. I don't know. There's too much shit that's going on. It's amazing. Some of the movies that have come out in my lifetime, even have proven to be almost prophetic. RoboCop, for instance. RoboCop came out before Detroit went to shit.
Well, I got some family members that would disagree with you for that.
But to the degree that it is now,
Yeah, they.
it's a lot closer to what it was in that movie than it was at the time the movie came out. Because the automotive industry was still up and running. People still had jobs. They still had hope.
Yeah, yeah, but other stuff was going on over there.
Right. But, define went to shit. Yeah. It's not good. Um, no, I do not smoke weed, and if I did, I probably wouldn't. That wouldn't be my first choice of movie. It just wouldn't. I mean, that the movie's trippy enough. um, but yeah, no, I'm not a weed guy. It's not my thing. And also, I'm not a Wicker Man guy. That movie again is bad, and I don't mean like bad in an enjoyable way. Aside from the obvious like crazy shit with Nicolas Cage, it's not a good movie.
Yeah. Now you know what has surprised me. It's not a movie. It's a TV show. Is House of the Dragon.
I've been hearing that. I haven't watched it because I have never read anything by Tubby. Now I can't remember his name. George R. R. Martin.
Yeah,
I've never read any of his stuff. I never watched Game of Thrones. I never read any of his books. It just seems like a complete deconstruction of what Tolkien did. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're excellent. I don't know. It was never something I was interested. So I didn't watch any of that, and I didn't read any of that. And so even if the House of the Dragon is really good, I'm probably not going to watch it because it's just not really my thing. I never really got into Martin's work. Also, I have to say that back when Game of Thrones was huge, and I think it was season 3 that the Red Wedding happens in,
hmm
right? Um, I had not seen any of this show at this point, and I had an opportunity to start watching it coming up to that point. The second that episode came out, every single late night show, news network, they were all talking about
yeah, I
that
remember that.
in explicit detail, and it
Yeah,
ruined the whole thing for me. I was like, they also talked about everything that led up to it, and I'm
yeah,
like,
because they
well,
were because
we just
the
yeah,
shock of what of
sure.
what happened.
But for those of us who hadn't seen it, and it was still pretty fresh, it wasn't like talking about Star Wars that came out freaking 45 years ago. It was still pretty fresh. They spoiled that for me, and I was like, well, fuck, I guess I'm not going to watch it at all now.
Yeah, they spoiled it for me before I hadn't even seen an episode of Game of Thrones, and it was what sparked my interest, and I went back and I watched all the seasons over the weekend, right? And for me, what I saw with my own eyes, all of the details that I had heard, all the spoilers, did not make up for what I saw with my own eyes. I mean, I was still in shock. I knew what was coming, but it's a
Mhm.
whole nother thing to see it with your eyes. I mean,
Yeah, and I'm if you love it, man, I ain't got no issue with you. It's not something that I ever got into. And I'm right there along with a lot of these other guys out there who say they're negative pieces about modern media and all that stuff. If you like something, go ahead and like it. Don't let anybody tell you different.
yeah,
I don't have any issue with that. It's just not for me. Uh, Although I have been seeing that a lot of guys who have been very very negative about a lot of recent media have said some very pleasant things about House of the Dragon. They've been very pleasantly surprised, and they've been very upbeat about the whole thing. Ryan Kinnell, for instance, who like I said, my following him got me called an alt-right chud. uh,
and the person who said that's probably 13 years old.
Either that or yeah, it. I don't know what's going on with that, but greatly regretted it. Yeah, I there's that too, but that's because that's HBO, man. That's always been HBO. I don't know if they did a show called Rome a while back.
Oh yeah, I
There
remember.
is so much ass rape in that.
Yeah, yeah, there
It's
was.
really off-putting. Yeah.
And they did not hold back with it either.
Oh, there was a guy. I didn't watch the whole show. I had roommates at the time who were watching it, and I came home one time, and on the screen they had this big ass screen TV, and I walk in, and all across the wall in front of the couch, all I see is a dude taking a shit. Right? He's sitting on the john and he's doing his business, and he's clearly taking a shit. And what happens? A bunch of his enemies come in, and they don't even bother to wipe him off. They just rape him to death. So I kind of, yeah, that put me off. Carrie, were you asking about the movie Nate's Memes was comparing that to, or are you talking about what I was talking about? Because what I was talking about was actually a television series called Rome on HBO.
It was a
Uh,
great series, but boy, it was not for the squeamish.
yeah, it was like Oz if they
Yeah, it
weren't in prison.
was.
Actually, it was a lot like Oz.
And
Yeah,
Oz is another one that oh man, you talk about not being. I was like, I can't finish this.
yeah. Hey man, I don't blame you for leaving Twitter. Everybody, there's a few people here who have kissed it goodbye, and more power to you. I'm feeling a little bit like it's Jake Gyllenhaal, and I'm homeboy from The Dark Knight. Except we're back at Brokeback Mountain, and I'm looking over Twitter's shoulder and saying, "Why can't I quit you?" it's a
Sorry,
very,
Nate.
it's a very bad. Yeah, dude. Sorry. Yeah, that show was hardcore. Um, hardcore gay porn. That is. Yeah. But HBO's always been like that. They've always gone like really hard in that left direction. Like, and I don't mean like leftist. I just mean like you're going down a straight road and then somebody yanks the wheel hard to the left. They could yank it hard to the right too. Same results.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. HBO has done some things that I would say are definitely worth watching, but a lot of the stuff that they do, where they're just like they're really leaning into that adults only content, might as well be
Yeah.
porn. It might as well be porn.
You know what I think set that off though? I mean, we've seen a lot of shows that are, what do you want to say? Well, you might as well say it's like double X. You know, I know Rome gets the credit for setting the tone for all that because if you notice, after Rome, all of a sudden, you can't forget Spartacus.
Hmm.
Spartacus
Nope.
was,
Spartacus Blood and Sand was actually pretty good. Um,
yeah, and although I mean, it was a great series all the way through.
mhm.
But man, I mean, you're talking about people getting butt raped. I mean, even Caesar got bent over.
Oh yeah, yeah. It happens quite a bit on the old HBO. I watched a show on there that I would recommend for the most part, called 6 Feet Under,
Mm,
and
I've
it
heard
was
that
about it's about a family that runs a funeral home, and all the family drama that goes along with being a struggling business, but their business is preparing the dead for burial. So it is what it is. And every episode begins with a random character, an unnamed character, dying in some like weird ass way. Um, and then the rest of the episode, that character is the body that they're preparing, kind of thing. But it really focuses on the family and all that stuff. And one of the brothers who owns a stake in it is gay, so there is a lot of that kind of action in it. Unfortunately, Rainn Wilson's in that show.
is he?
Yeah, yeah, he plays this weird little guy I say little. The guy's like 6'4", um, who shows up to. He gets hired to help out, and he ends up falling in love with the two male leads who run the thing. Their mom still lives there, because their house, like most funeral homes, the house that the undertakers live in is actually part of the same building,
Right.
and he ends up falling in love with their aging widowed mother, and it's a whole weird little arc. you know? So yes, Dead Like Me is similar in in a couple of ways, like the random people dying at the beginning of every episode.
Yeah.
Difference is Dead Like Me was comedy. 6 Feet Under is not.
And Dead Like Me was a great show.
Yeah.
I don't understand why it got cut off. They did 2 seasons and then they did like a couple of HBO movies out of it, and then that was it. I was like, there was so much that they could have done with it,
Hmm.
and it just
Yeah. It was. I think that one aired on Showtime.
oh yeah, Showtime.
But I've got the whole thing on DVD because it was a good show. They were canceled, I believe, is why it kind of feels like it ends abruptly. You know,
Yeah.
man, I got nothing. I got nothing. Uh, Monkeypox Media, we'll call it that.
How did this become?
Yeah. Um, I don't know, but what I will say about 6 Feet Under, because like most shows, it's got its up seasons and its down seasons. I think it ran for 7 seasons, and some of it's really, really good and very engaging, and some of it's just kind of mediocre. And it kind of bounces like ping pongs back and forth between mediocre and really excellent. But it does have one of the best executed series finales I have ever seen in a show ever. I would highly recommend it. I really did enjoy that quite a bit. Yeah, Ozzy, there seems to be a lot more of that now uh, lately. I've heard of Torchwood. I haven't watched it. Um, but yeah, there seems to be a lot more of that openly now on like mainstream shit where kids have access to it, which is my issue. Um, I didn't mind so much when it was just HBO doing its thing, and if it got to be too much for me, I stopped watching. Honestly, I watched a show on Netflix called Sense8.
I've heard of that one too. I never watched it.
It has a very cool science fiction premise. Very cool. I was really intrigued by this, but there is a lot of Wang in that. A lot of it. In fact, the actor who is playing the new Pinhead in the soon-to-be-released Hellraiser remake on Hulu
Mhm.
is in that. Jamie Clayton, I think, is the name. And I'm not using genders here or gender pronouns here for a reason. I'm sure y'all can figure it out. um, Decent actor though. I will say that. And I'm actually kind of looking forward to. Oh yeah, I might as well announce this here. It's probably going to be shit because I don't know how to make videos properly. So we're going to just sort of wing it. But I will most likely be doing a review of the Hellraiser remake because I am
You know what?
curious as hell.
It's funny that you. That's funny that you're saying that. And we'll put our heads together and figure it out. But we're going into October, and you know me, I love scary movies.
Hmm.
And I was thinking we should probably do like a top 10 review, of past movies, just like we were talking about just before we came on. Like I love the '80s movies. Your Nightmare on Elm Streets. Everybody loves Jason.
Hmm.
Michael Myers. But there's so many other scary movies out there, especially from the '80s that were good. Like Sleepaway Camp was one. you know, that was a series, and that actually went through into the '90s also. But I'm wondering, I've seen a lot of remakes throughout the year, and I've never really sat down and thought about how they matched up with the originals.
Yeah. Um, I that's one of the reasons that I watch a lot of older shit. Because I am, even if they're well done, I am tired of rehashing old ground.
Yeah.
I'm just tired of the remakes and the reboots and the reimaginings and the retardedness of all this. Disney hasn't done a new original thing in 80 years. You know?
Yes.
um, and I'm just tired of rewatching things I've already watched. I hunger for new stuff. And I do, if I see something new and it looks interesting, I will watch it. Sometimes it's not great. A lot of times it tends to be independent material because studios aren't willing to take risks anymore. Um, but so yeah, I've been watching old stuff. I will say I did start watching the Orville last week, which I had not seen before. Uh,
That's not a scary. That's not a wait. You talking
no,
about with the almost like the
I did,
Star Trek?
yeah, this kind of goes along with the whole remake reboot topic. Um,
I heard it's good though.
the reason I hadn't watched it is because it basically Seth MacFarlane of Family Guy and American Dad fame. He wanted to do a serious Star Trek show, and no studio would. The Paramount would not greenlight him for this because they were like, "No, you're the Family Guy guy. We don't think you can do it." So they wouldn't let him do it. So he created this show instead, and it's. I gotta say, man, it's surprise. It's some of it's goofy, some of it's silly. It gets more serious as the series goes on, and I gotta say, they've got episodes in this series that rival the very best of Star Trek.
Really?
It's
Okay, now I'm gonna have to watch it.
yeah, I not everything, but there are a handful of episodes that I'm just like, good God, that was good, you know. So, but yeah, and again, it's not a spooky Halloween thing, but it
Right.
was just something that I've noticed, and I only dipped into it because I've been trying to find things to watch that I feel like I can enjoy without having to either break apart because of they hired crap writers, you know,
Yeah.
or just is a rehashing of something I've already seen 100 times,
Yeah.
or is just filled with what the critical drinker calls the message.
Yeah. Well, and Nate's got some classics on there. The Thing, Evil Dead, People Under the Stairs. I remember the
Okay,
People Under the Stairs.
okay. First of all, Evil Dead 2. I'm gonna put Evil Dead 2 up over Evil Dead. Just in general, it's a better movie. Um, People Under the Stairs is excellent. Now, The Thing, as I'm sure most of you guys know, if you know horror movies, are well, yeah, and see, Nate's got it in the next text or in the next message. Was part of what John Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy. All of this stuff was inspired by the works of Lovecraft. The Thing was a remake of a 50s movie, but again, it was inspired by Lovecraft, and it was had his whole twist on that. And then In the Mouth of Madness was, I think, the third part, and there's another one in there called Prince of Darkness, which leans more into the apocalypse cult side of Lovecraft's writing, but it's all part of his Apocalypse trilogy. I don't like Prince of Darkness. I think it's terrible, but yeah, it's yep, yep. There you go. In the Mouth of Madness is one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and it's one of the only Lovecraftian movies that really leans into like the crazy tentacly shit. you know, Event Horizon, I would classify that as also as cosmic horror. It's very
Yeah.
much cosmic horror. Now there's a group of people on the internet who believe that it is a starting point for the Warhammer 40K uh, storyline, and I could see that, but I'm not a Warhammer guy. I will say that it does feel like it ties into Clive Barker's Hellraiser, though, just a little bit. You know,
Mm.
like they open up like the ship itself performs the same function as the box in Hellraiser.
Mm.
It opens up a realm that's not like our realm where suffering is the currency
Did
kind of
you
thing.
get your kneecap chopped off today? No. Well, you've got no currency.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, you know what I mean. If you've seen the Hellraiser movies,
Yeah, I
it's
have.
a very S&M kind of niche fetish thing.
For me, it was almost like Saw, just with the stabbing people through the hands. I was just I just couldn't do it.
That shit, I don't do torture porn, guys.
Yeah.
It's something that I do not do.
No,
I do
no.
not do
I will bring up a movie, and I don't know if you've seen it, um, but I call it like almost like a hidden gem, and it came out in 2003. It's called Darkness Falls. It had that
that movie sucks.
man.
Oh my god, it's awful. And I don't mean like it's not her. It's just really bad. Bad. That's the one about the evil
Like,
tooth fairy, right?
yeah, let me tell you something. I was the I don't. I, it must have been scary to everybody in the theater that I went to. Like, I took my little cousin because I was gonna go watch it, and my little cousin, she wanted to go with me, uh, and it was fine. I decided she can go watch that whole movie, and me and my cousin were fine. But we walked out, and of course, there was instances where women were screaming and stuff, and it was a Friday night, so a lot of people were out on dates. Me and my
Mhm.
cousin walk out, we're throwing stuff away. We start seeing couples come out. Majority of the men were bleeding because their women had dug their nails. This guy was bleeding from the neck because his girlfriend had dug her nails into his neck because of a jump scare. Like, these guys, their arms were bleeding. Their eyeballs all tore up. I was just
Oh
And
man,
I was thinking to myself, I was like, the movie wasn't that scary,
no,
but
it wasn't. It wasn't at all. I do have a story about this movie. So I have a copy of it on VHS. I didn't go see it in the theaters. I think on another stream. I think last week's Screaming Into the Void, we talked a little bit about Blockbuster Video and how when they were leaning into DVD sales, they started putting all their VHSs on clearance.
mm,
So you could go in and you could buy VHSs for like $2, $3 a piece. So I ended up collecting a bunch of movies that way on VHS. And one of the ones I picked up that a lot of times I would buy movies that I already knew, but sometimes I would pick up something I had never heard of or I didn't know anything about. And one of the times was Darkness Falls.
mm,
You know, most of the time I don't regret that. This was one of those times I did. Uh, I took it home, and where I lived at was there was a river that passed through a park not far from there, and we got all kinds of wildlife and shit coming down from the mountains. And I had the window open behind the television set up against the wall, so there was a window behind there, and that was open, and it was dark out, and there was like a light breeze blowing the curtains and shit. And so this raccoon decides he's going to start digging in the bushes directly below that window, right about the bit where they're hunting for her in the woods.
mhm.
Right. I'm not gonna lie. I got freaked out a little bit at that moment because I was hearing shit behind the TV outside while they were doing that. So I grabbed this big old stick that I keep and I ran outside and just beat the ever loving shit out of those bushes, screaming at the top of my lungs. I was like 22 years old. It was oh, and then I went and I watched the movie again the next day in the daylight, and I was like, "This movie's really bad." So
Well, yeah, I guess it's different when you're sitting in a movie theater with a giant screen. I mean, it really was. I mean, for me, I enjoy scary movies, but it takes a lot to scare me. The only movie that's ever scared me, and I wish I knew what the name of the movie was, but it came out somewhere around. I want to say it might have been 2006 or 2008. It might have been 2008, but it was a movie for I think it either came on a Sci-Fi Network. Yeah, it came on a Sci-Fi Network, and basically these ghosts came out of nowhere, came out from the ground because a bunch of teenagers got drunk and pissed on the graves. And
I mean,
but that movie, that was the only movie that legit scared me. And I was at somebody's house watching it. It was a group of us, and I about jumped out of my chair.
yeah, yeah, I could do it. Uh, it's memes. Yes. Now, I don't know about the legend about audiences that the viewers kept recreating the blood orgy. I do know that that footage is lost forever because where they started at, it deteriorated. It's gone. There's no, because people talk about like, oh, maybe adding it back in when they remaster it, but they can't because the footage doesn't exist anymore. It deteriorated to the point where it was unusable, unfortunately. And that blood orgy, the reason that that looked so effective in the original cut, which was because they hired a bunch of amputees and porn stars and covered them in corn syrup.
Mm.
Sort of like that scene in The Thing where the doc puts his hands in. And by the way, this movie's like over 35 years old, so spoilers, but too bad. He puts his hands. He's like trying to defibrillate the dude that's on the thing, and the guy's chest opens up in this giant mouth and bites his fucking arms off. Right, and he's got his arms like waving around. What they did was is they actually put facial prosthetics on an amputee to make him look like the actor who had arms.
Wow.
It's very effective practical effects work, actually. Still some of the best ever made, which is interesting because it's a John Carpenter film, and he's not really known for the greatest practical effects. So, but yeah, Sharktopus.
That's a trip.
Man, no. Those kinds of bad movies, 7-1. I love those kinds of bad movies. They're really, really shitty Sci-Fi Channel bad movies. Like they do Sharktopus versus Crocosaurus. Check that shit out. It's terrible. Or Five-Headed Shark Attack is another great one. Or Shark-a-Lanch, which is about a ski resort on a mountain, and a bunch of sharks are swimming through the snow.
Okay, that's weird.
No, the poster has this tagline on it that says "Snow is frozen water. The science checks out." It's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life, and it was super fun to watch. And also, I would recommend some independent movies for you guys. Weresquito Nazi Hunter. Watch this movie.
Nazi Hunter.
Watch this movie, but watch it with the subtitles on. You got to watch it with closed captions on, because at a certain point in the film, the closed captions start kind of doing their own thing.
Really?
Yeah.
It's
like
whatever.
Like the guy who's writing the closed captions starts reacting to scenes in the movie with the closed captions. It's really funny. So, but it's a throwback to like 1950s sci-fi horror movies, like The Fly or that sort of thing. It's about a guy who is part of Nazi experiments, and he becomes a weresquito, half man, half mosquito. He turns into a giant thing with a giant mosquito, and he's really mad about it. So he goes and he hunts down all the Nazis who had anything to do with it. In particular, a mad scientist Nazi who has the single worst German accent I've ever heard, considering he sounds like he's from Wisconsin. It's a lot of fun. It only came out a couple years ago. It's in black and white. It's done up just like an old 50s schlocky movie. It's great.
I'll have to check it out. If not anything, for the subtitles, the closed captioning.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely worth watching. That one, and Sci-Fi did one called Mansquito that was really stupid but a lot of fun. Think The Fly, but he sucks blood.
Yeah. There is a and I think it's back on. There is a subscription service that shows nothing but scary movies. I think it's called Chiller. I want to say it's like $1 something a month. There used to be a Chiller channel, and they had great movies on there. And then it got shut down. But I think I'm wondering if it's the same one.
Are you talking about Shudder?
Yeah, Shudder. There we go.
Oh no, Shudder's still active.
Okay. No, but there was a Chiller channel. But what Shudder does is what Chiller was doing on a cable network. If that makes any sense.
Nate's Memes, I have not. That's going on the list of must see.
Shark and size women.
That sounds like it's somewhere between Sharknado and Texas Chainsaw Hookers. Or no, it was Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers. Sorry.
I saw that one.
Yeah, that one's. Do you remember the scene where she's got a guy and she like puts the fuzzy cuffs on him to the bed and all that stuff, and then she starts laying plastic down everywhere?
Yeah.
And she puts plastic over her velvet Elvis painting, and he's like, "Oh, what's all that for?" She's like, "Oh, I don't want to make a mess." And then she pulls out a chainsaw and hacks the guy to pieces. But uh, Abraham Lincoln Vampire. Nate's memes. Why, read the book. The book is 100 times better than that movie was. 100 times better. A lot of it because the guy who wrote the book took excerpts from Abraham Lincoln's actual diaries and kind of like weaved in the vampire stuff with all the fictional parts sort of seamlessly woven in. It's really good. The movie was okay. Yeah, it was surprisingly better than I thought it was going to be, but it wasn't anywhere near as good as the book was. So check that out because it was definitely worth reading. I have not seen Big Ass Spider. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff out there I haven't seen, but I do check stuff out. And Ozzy, by the way, Plan 9 from Outer Space. Yeah, I saw that once too. It kind of made part of my soul die, but I did see it.
But like the Blair Witch Project, that that took something out of me.
Yeah,
The
no, that
original.
Plan 9 from Outer Space is widely considered to be the single worst movie ever made. At least until well, there might have been some since then, but yeah, this is widely considered. This was one of Ed Wood's masterpiece, and it was was it Bela Lugosi or Boris Karloff? I forget which guy was in it, but it was whichever one it was. It was his last movie before he died. So, yeah, no worries, Carrie. Good night. Um, we will see you soon.
Yep.
So yeah, it's there's a lot of great stuff out there, uh, and some really bad stuff. Yeah, Edward's masterpiece. I mean,
It's not
it
mandatory.
all of his movies were terrible, but this was like supposed to be the one that made him a Cecil B. DeMille kind of legend. Cecil B. DeMille is also notorious for all of his bad fucking movies too.
Mm.
Uh, Passed on BWP. What's
Now, see,
BWP?
you got me wanting to sign up for this Shutter site. You
You
got all
know,
kinds of stuff on there.
I don't generally go in for that because the problem with a lot of modern horror, and you can always judge a society by its entertainment, specifically its horror movies lately. Like look at the '70s, how graphic and gritty and nasty those movies were. Well, America was going through a dark fucking time.
Yeah.
You know, that's how you get things like Last House on the Left, which is something that I don't want to watch again. You know, I think The Hills Have Eyes came later, but it was a product of the same sort of sentiments. And same director too, by the way. That was Wes Craven, early Wes Craven. I think he did People Under Stairs in between, but that one was actually really good. Um, what's Ozzy? What's BWP? I missed something somewhere.
Oh, yeah, yeah, you're right. I'm looking at the. I get what you're saying. Like a lot of horror tend to reflect the pretty much society and where it is.
Yeah, it does. And
And
right now, it's
I'm I'm looking at one of the movies. It's a vampire movie. I'm looking at one of the movies for Shutter. I just clicked just to see the premise of the movie. This kid gets killed by some some old vampire, gets resurrected by a gang of rebellious vamps who feed on bigots and abusers.
Jesus. See, I you can't trust anything new. Uh, if it's not chock full of the fucking message, which is a big enough problem because if the message takes away from the characters and the actual plot, then it's you're driving away viewers that way. That's fucking idiotic. But
Yeah,
um,
it, yeah. It's let's see.
that's something that I don't think I would ever watch because like
No, you won't, because I'm looking at the rest of it as a vampire. He finally knows empowerment and belonging. It is the exciting debut from an Australian trans teen filmmaker, such and such.
yeah.
I don't.
So
I
if they
mean,
put in
more power to him. I just think that all that extra stuff that didn't need to be said. Just make a great movie. you don't need to jam a message in there, but that looks like that's exactly what this person did.
Man, no, that's the thing. Like you can always tell when they start talking about who's involved or who's making it. If they start leaning into things like intersectional identity shit,
Yeah,
uh, then you can tell that that's the focus immediately. Because if that's what they're talking about, they're not saying, "Hey, this is an exciting young filmmaker making a debut," and that's all they say about that, right? And there's like, we're really looking forward to what he or she, you know, brings forth. I might check it out then. But if the first thing they lean into is like, oh, it's transgender, oh, it's a young black woman, oh, it's I don't know, whatever boxes they want to check, then you know that that's going to be the focus of the story. And if that is the focus of the story, then there really isn't a story. They're really not characters either. I've said this before, man. If being gay or transgender or straight or whatever is your whole identity, you're a boring person.
yeah.
If there's nothing more to you than that, if that's all that you are, if that's all that you want people to see, I'm not interested in getting to know you because there's nothing to get to know. You put it all out on Front Street. You know, people are more complex than that, and you shouldn't be, leading with that shit. I don't walk into every room saying, "Hi, I'm a straight white man." Can you imagine how stupid the conversation would be after that? you know, People would see
Actually, I
that and
can.
they'd be like, "Oh, well, that's interesting. Moving on. We're gonna go talk to this guy over here." Yeah, you don't lead with that shit because it's unimportant.
Well, hey, they've got the '80s classics on here. Slaughterhouse Rock. They've got
Yeah,
they got you. They got they got your Rob Zombie movies on here.
I do. I will say this: I don't think that Rob Zombie is a good director. I think he is a good music video director, but I think he's a shit movie director. I don't like his movies.
So you're prejudiced against zombies. Okay.
Yeah, I am. You can blame the early 2000s for that. you know, um, but yeah, it's just I don't know. I don't think he's a very good director. I think he wants to be, and he's real excited to get to make all these movies and stuff. Did you see that the trailer for the Munsters?
No,
Yeah, he's made the Munsters as a feature film.
I heard it was coming out, but I haven't seen the trailer for it.
Holy Christ, it looks bad.
Does it?
Yes, yes, it does. It looks like I don't know how to describe it, man. It looks like it's going to be a train wreck. I might see it just for that.
Actually, Nate, looking at your Nate, I do remember that. I mean, I was a kid, but I do remember that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and then in the '90s, nobody gave a shit. You could be gay, and nobody cared. Just like you could be straight, nobody cared. It wasn't something people brought up, because it wasn't an important character trait. 7-1, I'm glad you like that movie. That's what I'll say about that. Read the book. I will say that too. Read the book. If you like the movie, more power to you. I did not. Is that next week, Ozzy? Holy shit. Yeah, obviously they're doing a great job marketing that because the trailer I saw was like 2 months ago.
Yeah, I didn't know it was
And,
coming out next
and
week
that was
either.
all I saw.
We should trick Mandatory into watching it.
I actually don't really know what he likes in terms of movies. What kind of movies he likes. He might like. There's a Winnie the Pooh movie coming out called Blood and Honey.
Yeah, I heard about that. Where they're. I was telling my wife about that. I read the premise, and she was like, "Wait a minute, what?
Man, the
They
trailer
turn
dropped the other day. It's on YouTube.
He's
It,
serious. They turn. How you gonna turn? How you gonna turn Boo Boo a serial killer?
yeah. Well, as far as I can tell,
I mean, they're
uh, e,
people
e,
wearing the
e-
masks.
yeah, as far as I can tell, Eeyore is only mentioned by name, and the killers are Pooh Bear and Piglet. And Piglet has tusks.
Yeah.
But and Christopher Robin's like this, weenie little femboy. You know,
I said Boo. I keep thinking about Yogi. I don't know why I keep thinking about Yogi Bear. I think about Winnie the Pooh. Probably because I like Yogi better.
fair enough. Explosions, titties, and the American flag usually does it for me too, buddy. I'll give you that. So, um, but yeah, it's the trailer's on YouTube. I'd recommend you check it out. It looks bad, but like in a way that I might actually enjoy. So I haven't decided if I'm going to watch it yet or not. I think I probably won't. I was talking about this again with a coworker the other day, and she was pretty excited about it. And I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll watch it, maybe I won't. I haven't decided yet, but it doesn't look like good. And the only reason this movie exists, by the way, is because the copyright finally expired on Disney's monopoly on that property. So anybody can make anything they want about Winnie the Pooh as long as they're not using the Disney versions.
Mm.
All of those characters, the 100 Acre Wood, the whole thing, all of it is out in the public domain now. Which is how you get this movie. The first thing somebody does is make an independent slasher flick.
But horror movies. I used to belong to this. It was like I wouldn't say like an independent actors type of. Say it wasn't like a union. It was almost like a club, and I remember when I was going there, and one of the people that worked there was telling me that of all types of movies, they said horror movies are actually the cheapest that you can make and get away and actually make it great with little to no money, depending on how much work you're willing to put into it.
Sorry, I was muted there for a second. Apologies.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, did he?
No, I was responding to you, and I realized that I was the only one that could hear me.
I was like, wait a minute, did I not say something? Did I say
No,
something that
no.
you didn't
I
like?
was, you can make a pretty solid movie with an iPhone these days, though.
Yeah.
You don't need much anymore. And honestly, I think we're going to see a lot more of that lately because I'm not the only one getting sick of the shit that Hollywood keeps pumping out. People are going to start making their own entertainment, and I don't mean like what the Daily Wire's doing, although I commend what they're doing too.
Mhm.
I haven't seen any of it because I don't like the Daily Wire's staff enough to subscribe to them. But I do appreciate that they're going their own way and saying the hell with Hollywood. I'm good with that.
Well, you're right. A lot of people are starting to do that.
Yeah. So I know it's not a typo. I have seen Flesh Gordon. and no, Flesh Gordon. It's a
Oh,
plural.
I'm tripping.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's the one with the giant penis at the end. I'm not. That's not a joke. There's a giant penis at the end. It's a big monster. It's a space penis.
I guess that makes it better.
Yeah, it's. I've known about Flesh Gordon since I was a little boy, and I kind of wish I hadn't at that age anyway. Yeah. No, I Ozzy, I know that's not a typo. That's an accurate spelling. Oh man, guys, this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually,
Well, we're gonna have to get that together. I'll get some clips together. We've got plenty of time to do it.
mm-hmm.
But I say we look at the schedule, get it as close to Halloween as possible, and get it out. Shoot, it might even be a good idea to we could either we could do it here on this show or we could do it on Saturday. So at least we can try to scare the hell out of Kat.
I don't know how Kat feels about horror movies, actually. And again, like everybody's different. Everybody knows, likes what they like. For my taste, generally horror movies have to have like an element of the fantastic to them. The really gritty, realistic, like Cannibal Hillbillies in the Woods, or torturing teens in a European hostel or that shit. I don't watch that shit because I know for a fact a lot of that crap happens in real life, and I've seen enough ugly shit with my own eyes. I don't consider that entertainment, and I don't want to watch that. But I can handle shit like Freddy Krueger because he's a dream demon,
Yeah.
or Pinhead who comes out of a magic Rubik's cube, or Jason Voorhees who is basically an unkillable zombie.
Yeah.
you know,
Or Michael Myers, whose past changes at
I
the
will
whim of the direct. I mean,
I will say that the Halloween movies are an exception in terms that, number one, they're classic slashers, and they're great. The first few of them anyway are pretty good movies. Um, but Michael Myers is in a category by himself. I wouldn't put him in with other dudes.
who do you think will win in a fight, him or Jason? Oh, and I'm gonna add Jason versus Freddy to that, but to that list. But I'm wondering,
Well, we already
between
know
the
who'd win in a fight between Freddy and Jason.
yeah, Jason, heads down, not just hands, but heads.
I honestly I don't know because Jason's unkillable,
Yeah,
right? He is flat out unkillable. If
Michael
he's
too though, but they've
Michael, I
retconned
don't
that and
think
then
that
changed
Michael
it.
is necessarily unkillable so much as that he is excruciatingly patient and he can teleport.
Well, with the background, the original background before they retconned it, he was unkillable. Um, and now, depending on who's directing it, he's either, like you said, super durable or he's unkillable because you've got Jamie Lee Curtis's version, you know, and that last one she did, what did it come out like a year or two ago? That one was horrible. That one was so bad. Halloween Kills, I think it's called.
Oh, right. I did not see the last one I saw was I think The Curse of Michael Myers, which was part 6.
Yeah,
And then I watched H2O and I was really put off by that one. I didn't think it
yeah.
was very good. And I don't mean put off like it was like, extra horrifying or anything. It just wasn't very well put together. That was I think the first time they had Jamie Lee Curtis back since the second movie, but
Hmm.
it wasn't good. And I haven't watched any of the new stuff because I'm just like, it's probably going to be not fun.
Yeah,
So, but no, I like my horror movies to be a little bit. This is why I lean into cosmic horror, and I mean I'd include Alien, the very first one, in that.
yeah, yeah.
Hot take by the way, uh, Alien is better than Aliens. Fight me.
Mm, yeah, Aliens. Aliens was more action. It wasn't to me. It wasn't about horror. It was just a straight up sci-fi
Right.
action movie.
Well, there is the fact that they're both two different kinds of movies.
Yeah.
So judging on that merit, then I could probably put them up next to each other and be all right with it. But my problem with Aliens is that because it leaned hard on the action, it took everything that made the xenomorph special and
Yeah.
terrifying, and it threw it out the window in favor of exploding aliens.
Yeah.
And that bothers me to this day. It's one of the things I think that I would probably list up there under unforgivable James Cameron sins, like making Titanic.
Yeah. Now, if you want to scare, get the Alien video game that came out a few years ago. Now that game will scare you. That game will scare you.
Oh, the Alien Isolation,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah,
Yeah. That game is scary.
I think I watched Mr. H play some of that.
I watched the Rap Brad play it, and I was just like, "There's no way I could have played. I would have had nightmares for a week."
You want to play a real scary game, and I know the graphics are outdated at this point. Fatal Frame.
I I don't think I played it. I've heard of it. I don't think I played it.
Fatal Frame is probably the scariest video game I've ever played in my life. Like I couldn't play it alone. I couldn't play it in the dark. There were moments where there was in a crowded room trying to play that shit, and I was like, nope, I'm done today. You play a little Japanese schoolgirl investigating a haunted house, and the only thing you're armed with is a camera that picks up spectral images.
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember that
It's
movie.
terrifying.
Yeah, it's
And
terrifying.
I got a phone call from my mother. Right, I'm playing this game, and it's already I'm on edge because it's just one of those things. So I pause the game. I get up. I'm talking on the phone and all that stuff. And the pause screen's just got the fatal frame on it, and it's got spooky sounds and stuff like that. I turn around and I turn back, and all of a sudden, these tiny child-sized bloody handprints start appearing on the screen. And I was like, "Okay, what the fuck is wrong with people who made this?"
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
Nate, you are right. The Aliens game is sick. It is. It is pretty good.
Yeah. So I haven't played that. It's a shooter, isn't it?
Yeah,
First person? Yeah, I don't do well with shooters, generally speaking. And Fatal Frame is from that same perspective, except that your ammo is film. And it's
Alien Two is like Alien and Terminator screwed, and the result is Aliens. That's true.
yes, yes, we're putting that up on screen. Absolutely. Also, another hot take:
Dead Space. Yeah,
Terminator, the original one, right? Is not only do I think it's better than Terminator 2. Again, different kinds of movies, so I will grant that, and I do like Terminator 2. But the first movie is a better movie. You know, generally speaking, I just think it's a better movie, and also it's a complete arc. Everything after the first Terminator is unnecessary.
yeah,
It's a very tight movie. It wastes no space, and it neatly does what time travel movies typically fail to do, is it connects everything. But so yeah, I would argue that that was the better movie of the two of them. Although I know I'm in the minority on both of those opinions. And I'm not saying that I don't like Terminator 2. And there's some stuff I really do like about Aliens, but in terms of it being a better movie, I disagree. It's just not. Uh, the bit where Tom Skerritt gets the flamethrower out and he's crawling around in the vents and they're trying to figure out where this thing is and it's right on top of him, but nobody knows where it is, and it turns out to be like just just right there. Oh man,
you're
that'll
like
make
those were the days.
yeah. Those were the days. Great
Just
fucking
remember,
movies.
we have to go to sleep soon.
You know what? I watch horror movies and then fall asleep. It doesn't bother me. So, that said, yeah, I think 7-1, was it you earlier who made a comment about um, Event Horizon reminding you of Dead Space? I think it might have been. Um,
Yeah, well, Dead
but I,
Space is an outstanding game
right, but
series.
I think that Dead Space was likely
It's based
inspired
off of
by
Event
Event
Horizon.
Horizon.
It
Yeah,
definitely is. It definitely is.
yeah, great movie too. Sam Neill puts in a hell of a performance in that.
I could have sworn I read that they're getting ready to come out with another Dead Space. I could be wrong, but I could have sworn I read that.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, man. The first Terminator, the thing that I will say that Robert Patrick played his part very, very, very well. He was very intimidating as the Terminator. But I think that they really nailed the relentlessness of these machines in the first movie much better. I mean, at the end of the movie, it's and again, spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen something that came out in '84, but whatever. um, it it's crawling through the hydraulic press trying to get to Sarah, and she's just barely getting out of it, and she slams the thing down, and it's missing an arm, and it's mostly just the torso and the one working arm, right? And it's almost got her, and it just won't die, right? And then she, of course, hits the button, says "You're terminated, fucker," and it gets crushed.
Mhm.
Uh, which, by the way, one of the all-time greatest badass lines right before a kill in any movie ever. "You're terminated, fucker." But uh, but that movie just illustrated so well how the machines do not stop until they cannot go any on any longer. You know, uh, just beautifully. And I think that was harder to do with the Liquid Terminator from the second movie because it just reformed and rehealed itself. Whereas in the first movie, it gets damaged and it
Yeah.
stays damaged.
Do you know what was stronger, tougher, and more relentless than a Terminator? A child support summons.
Yeah, any kind of any kind of summons really.
Yeah, your bank account is terminated.
Right? Yeah, yeah, it is. I love the Terminator. It's one of my all-time favorite movies ever. Uh, it's probably the best thing James Cameron has ever done, and he's hit or miss with me. I really love the Terminator. I like Terminator 2. I'm okay with Aliens. I love The Abyss. Also an excellent movie. I hated Titanic. Plus, who the fuck went into that movie and didn't know how that was going to end? You know, um,
Yeah,
and Avatar is one of the most visually stunning wastes of time I have ever seen in my life. It's beautiful, but it's pointless.
yeah,
You know. So, yeah, yeah, that's true. Um, and also, I stand by my statement, man. The first Terminator film negates the necessity of any sequels, including two. It doesn't need them.
yeah.
You know, I even liked the Sarah Connor Chronicles. It was that 2 season TV show that was on Fox with Lena Headey playing Sarah Connor. I liked the show. I know a lot of people didn't, but I did enjoy that show very much. But it was again unnecessary. You know,
Hmm.
so Lena Headey was great in that. You know, Shirley Manson is in that show.
What?
Yeah, the singer from Garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, she comes on at the end of the first season
Oh
as
yeah, the Terminator one, what 1001 or something like that.
yeah, yeah, and she you don't find out right away, but she turns out to be like a Liquid Terminator. But she also did that cover of Samson and Delilah in the season finale of the first season. They just incredible piece of music, um,
Yeah.
and all that. But yeah, she's in that and quite good actually. I was surprised at her ability to act like a cold, unfeeling killing machine.
Yeah, her character it did have a bit of a personality, as I remember.
Well, it's I was actually praising her work there because if you've ever watched any interviews with the woman, she's actually kind of upbeat
Hmm.
and generally very charming
Yeah,
and all that.
I love Shirley Manson.
Yeah, but her character in that was nothing like that. Nothing like that at all.
If I remember, her character was like cold and distant, but I mean,
Curious,
Shirley
but yes.
Shirley still, you still don't get those kind of vibes from her because that's not like you said, that's not how she is.
Mhm. Well, I mean, Ozzy, that's true of all time travel stories. It's all a paradox. This is one of the reasons that there are so many people bitching about Endgame. You know,
Mm.
is because the time travel stuff just kind of gets goofy, and then they go on all the stuff that the movies in the '80s had done, and then they go and they do the exact same thing. You know, so yeah, none of it makes any sense. But in terms of a self-contained story, I think that Terminator is better on its own. Nate's memes? No, I think I have not. Is that like a thing on I don't know on YouTube, or is that some kind of like porn parody? Because yeah, I don't know. Just keep in mind, fellas, my mother does watch this channel, even though I know I was talking about all kinds of ass rape earlier in the show. Well, how much ass rape? All of it, dude. All of the ass rape. Uh, it's a good thing this channel's not monetized because that word alone would probably have gotten us set right to red.
Yeah,
Okay, I will check it out.
definitely.
Yeah, I will definitely check it out. I think Ozzy mentioned something earlier today too about music videos involving the slasher legends. I have seen those. The Merkins, I believe. Yeah,
Well, I guess
I have.
Thriller doesn't count in that one since that came from the mind of Michael Jackson, I think.
No, no, it won't. It will not. But that's okay. I'm a grown ass man. um, I will check that out. You guys, there was a Finnish movie called Star Wreck that was a parody of both Star Trek and Babylon 5 and pretty much every other major sci-fi franchise. And it was goofy as shit, and some of the humor in it was puerile and childish, but it wasn't terrible. You know, I mean, I wouldn't recommend it for everybody because it was kind of dumb in parts, but it wasn't so dumb that I wouldn't watch it. And I watch a lot of dumb movies like Rubber. Did you ever see Rubber, Larry?
No.
It's a do you know what it's about?
Mm-mm.
It's about a sentient tire that rolls from place to place and uses its impressive psychic abilities to explode the heads of its enemies or just, people it doesn't like in the moment. And it is one of the most self-aware and yet completely stupid movies I have ever seen in my life.
Somebody had too much time on their hands.
You
A
should
tire.
definitely you should definitely see it. It's up there in terms of bad movies. Maester Chow loves the one I'm about to mention. Um, Hobo with a Shotgun.
I've heard of that one. That's a classic.
Yeah, you know what? I give it some respect because I love Rutger Hauer as an actor. I think he's a fantastic and underrated actor, and yes, he did a lot of really shitty movies, but he did some really good roles too.
Yeah.
And he never phoned it in. Um, One of my personal favorites, going back to the horror theme, uh, the original The Hitcher with him and C. Thomas Howell.
Hmm.
It's about a kid, he's on a trip and all that shit with his girl, and there's a hitchhiker on the same highway who is a killer. And Rutger Hauer plays the killer. C. Thomas Howell plays the kid. They remade it with Sean Bean playing the hitchhiker in the early 2000s, and it's not as good. But yeah, great fucking movie. I have seen Skinners, actually. Yes, some time ago. David Cronenberg has a thing for exploding heads too. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. You watch most of his movies. Nearly every one of them has at least one exploding. Even A History of Violence, guy gets shot in the head and it basically like pops like a melon. Yeah.
Have you seen that? This is Strive going away from scary movies. Have you seen that TV show The Boys on Amazon?
Yeah, I have. I've also read the comic books it's based on, and
Yeah, there's a mutant on there. I don't know if they call them mutants or supers or whatever they call them, but she makes people's heads explode.
yeah, I have unfortunately watched all 3 seasons. I think it kind of goes to shit after the first season, but now it looks impressive. The special effects are great, and a lot of the performances are great, but it's clearly chock full of the message. But yeah, I know who you're talking about. It's their AOC representation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that true, dude?
Oboe is a shotgun, but the Hitcher's a cult classic, I guess.
Oh no, no, the one I brought up on screen. He says he dated Katie Sackhoff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know who Katie Sackhoff is. I followed some of her work after Battlestar, and she was excellent in Battlestar.
Yeah.
Nice. See if you can get her on here. I'm just kidding. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, still, interesting. I met Edward James Olmos once, who played Admiral Adama on
Yeah.
the same show. Met him. He is a very funny, charming man who is about half my height.
I had a good laugh. I used to work at a grocery store as a box boy. I had a good laugh with Harrison Ford because we were watching the cash checkers, the two checkers, two of the checkers that I worked with were sitting there. They were ringing up his stuff, but they're whispering back and forth because they're arguing because one of them is saying that looks like Harrison Ford, and the other one was like, no, that's not him. And me and Harrison Ford, we're looking at each other and we're just bald. We're just laughing because I'm like, because I'm looking at when she ran his credit card, it said Ford, comma Harrison, and I was just like,
You know, I saw Harrison Ford once.
yeah,
I just from a distance, he was in a car and he was in a motorcade that was on its way to a funeral. But yeah, it was passing through an area I lived in at the time. So I guess he knew the guy. You know what's really funny? Do you guys follow like the professional wrestling at all?
yeah.
All right, so I don't, and that's why the story's funny. I haven't followed professional wrestling since Hacksaw Jim Dugan was a thing. I mean, Jake the Snake was still big. you
He
know,
still is. He's still around.
I know he's still around. I'm just saying that he was in his prime. This would have been not long after that famous fight between him and Andre the Giant.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Uh, so I was like 4 when I was into this shit. So I used to work at a place called the Senior Center. It was a city facility, a recreational facility for generally for senior citizens, but for other people could rent it out too. And we used to have a lot of weddings and quinceañeras and shit like that there. And so we had this wedding one time, and there was a guy who was there clearly as a guest, but all these little kids kept going up to him and making him sign shit and all this stuff. And so the 3 guys who were I had working with me that night, we were just standing there staring at him. We're just like, who the hell is this guy? I mean, he's looking at the sides of him. He's got to be some kind of athlete, but we have no idea what kind of sport he plays. It was like maybe it's football, but like, and I was with a couple of sports guys. I'm not a sports guy, but I had a couple of sports guys working for me there. So eventually, I'm just like, all right, well, I'm going to go find out since we're all standing here like chicken shits. And I went up to him and I was like, hey man, you mind if I get your autograph? He's like, yeah, no problem. So I handed him a piece of paper. He took a pen and he wrote it out on my back, right? And I got to look at it, and I was like, and then I recognized the name. It was the Edge from professional wrestling.
Edge, yeah,
Yeah. And then I got to talking to him, and he's like, "Oh, you like wrestling?" I was like, "No, I'm a hockey guy." He's like, "Yeah, me too."
yeah. He is.
Yeah. So,
I mean,
but
he
I had
does.
no, I didn't really know who he was, but one of my good friends was a massive fan of wrestling. So I took this autograph and I gave it to him because I was just
Mhm.
like, "Hey, man, I met this guy at a wedding where I work like half an hour ago." Yeah. I was like,
You, you, you want to know? I've had a run in with similar a few wrestlers that I've met. Some of the wrestlers that I met were still wrestling on the independents, and there is you have WWE, which has been around, and now you have AEW, and a few of them that I've met have been in both companies, and they're in AEW now. But I remember shaking their hands and everything, and I just always knew they were gonna make it. But there's this one guy that was used to be in WWE, huge guy. His wrestling name was Ezekiel Jackson. And I think he was there like back in 2000. I want to say 2005, 2006, somewhere around there. And actually, maybe a little later. Um, and he was related to somebody that went to the church that I was going to at the time back in California. and the the pastor let him put a ring in there, and he did a special some kind of event called Fighting for Fatherhood. And I went in there and I got to meet him. He was a nice guy, and me and one of the guys, we were in the ring playing around, and just doing whatever, just taking photos. And one of my good buddies used to be a pro wrestler. He just did it like small time, and I had forgotten something that he had always told me. And he said, when you're usually safe around there whenever you go in the ring, when you go in there, where it's at. He said the only time that somebody who doesn't wrestle can find themselves in any kind of trouble is if they're inside the ring messing around. Because for them, when you go into the ring, that means you're pretty much saying, "Hey, it's open season. Let's roll, let's wrestle, let's do whatever." And I'm I'm looking over one of the turnbuckles, and I turn around, and I didn't know. Now Rick is 6'4", and his arms were bigger than my legs. His arms were, I mean, they were just massive. This guy was huge, and at the time, he was 300. I think he was three. I want to say he was 315 or 320, somewhere around there, over 300. And I'm standing there talking to somebody, and the guy is outside, and I'm next to the turnbuckle, and I hear this rumble, and I turn around, and Ezekiel is in the air flying towards me and splashes me in the corner with all his weight. I can't tell you. I saw my whole life flash before my eyes.
Yeah, I bet.
Like that episode with Married with Children, when they all went to Vegas after Marcy's husband left her, and I was like on the ground on the mat, and he can't get up, and that big fat lady jumps down on him, and you hear all the wind go by, and man, that guy I bounced and hit that mat. And later on that day, one of the wrestlers went to get on that turnbuckle to do some kind of move, and the turnbuckle busted into pieces, and he fell and landed on the back of his neck. And they had to stop the match. The match ended early because he got hurt. And they were like, "Man, what in the world happened?" And I was thinking to myself, "Yeah, I know what happened because I bounced off of it earlier. It must have knocked it loose when Ezekiel came crashing down on me."
Yeah, it'll do it.
But the funniest part, and Ozzy will like this, the main thing about that place is, of course, you always you have the kids come around to those events, and Ezekiel was running the event, and he had this thing. He did a spot where all the bad guys come out, and he talked mess, and they beat him up, or whatever, and then the good guys supposed to come out and make the save. Well, everything was working well, but the problem is that there was families in there, and so a lot of families, you had the parents, but then a lot of them had like 4 or 5 kids, a piece per family. Like there was a lot of kids in there. Well, I mean, it was working well. Like the adults, we were like, dang, this, Ezekiel he really put this thing together well. Like he was telling the story and everything. But the problem came in where they forgot to tell the kids that it was fake, because the kids knew him because he had been going there for a while. So from what they thought was that it was really going on. So the kids started crying, and I'm looking around, and you can hear all the kids start crying, and they're like, ah! And I'm thinking, this is great. The kids are crying, they're upset. I just got this big sadistic smile on my face until one of the girls gets up and says, "He can't do that to Ezekiel. Let's get him." Every kid in that room got up and stormed the ring. Some of them grabbed the chairs that they were sitting in. They didn't realize now a lot of them what saved those guys, the so-called bad guys, is when they, as a kid, as kids got closer to the ring, they didn't realize that they weren't tall enough to get in, and some of them was trying to climb in and trying to get their chairs through, and they weren't in. Their chairs didn't fold. Well, one of the bad guys looks up and he realizes he sees the kids trying to get him. They're trying to kill these guys. He's like, oh shoot, I'm out of here. So he goes to get out. He turns around. He realizes he can't get out. He's surrounded by a bunch of angry kids. The parents are snatching the kids off the top, off the apron. They're jumping into the ring. So they grab, one kid off, and then the other kid, they taking turns jumping in the ring. They trying to get this guy. You could see the look on this guy's face. He's praying because these kids are trying to kill them. So the good guys had to come in, couldn't get in. They had they had to weasel in between all these kids that's trying to get in to beat up the bad guys because they thinking that these guys are really beating up Ezekiel. It was the craziest sight I've ever seen. But these kids were not playing. They was out for blood. It was the funniest thing I'd ever seen.
Nice. Yeah. Um. Well, we just hit the 2 hour mark. Do you guys want to keep going?
Yeah. Well, I actually have to jet. I do have to get up early. But to answer your question, yeah, it is Christina Loken. She hasn't done much since the Terminator. I think she did Blood Rain, and I think she did one more thing, but her star fell pretty quick.
Yeah, well,
and it shouldn't have because she's a good actress.
Yeah, sure, right. I think a lot of it had to do with the poor reception of Terminator 3.
That's not her fault.
No,
I mean,
it wasn't. But like Blood Rain's not exactly like.
It's not a step up.
No.
Yeah, she definitely should have been pickier about the roles that she did, but by then it might have been the only thing she could get.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, guys, I think I'm probably gonna hit the sack myself. But thank you all for coming out. This has been a lot of fun. I think we'll definitely do more of these. In the future, I will try to coordinate a little bit better with Lawrence and at least get the stream set up before I have to run home from work and do it all, and all that. I'll try and work this out a little bit better. I kind of overslept this morning. It was like, shit, I got to get to work. So I didn't even think about it. And all that. But so we'll try and get our shit a little bit more in a group, as it goes. But we thank you all for joining us. This has been a lot of fun. Lawrence Knight's channel link is in the description. I will probably be adding some stuff to the description, hashtags and like topics and whatnot, because we weren't really sure what we were gonna do with this, but I think this has worked out pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. Oh man, you know what? I wish we could have talked about David Allen gaming. Did you hear about?
Well, we can always do that next time too.
Yeah. He's his career is dead. He broke I don't know how many NDAs, and he accidentally outed himself.
Yeah. So, but that said, again, thanks for joining. Larry, do you have anything you want to like plug or?
Keep coming back and watching the product. How about that?
Sure. Yeah,
tune in Saturday.
Yeah, and I am still doing. I've got a third Whispering in the Dark stream up, short stream. I just went up the other day. You can check that out if you like. That one's a special one. It's about the kid in North Dakota and the 41-year-old who ran him down. And the reason I say that one is a special one is because there is a link to the kid's mother's GoFundMe.
Yeah.
In the description of that video.
And isn't it nice that guy got released on a $50,000 bond? That means if he got a bondsman, he only had to post $5,000 to get out.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of horse shit along with that. So I did that though. That's up if you guys want to check it out. I did leave the link for the GoFundMe just in case, because I'm sure they're having trouble with funeral costs and whatnot. And Then also, again, come join us on Saturday for Screaming into the Void, 4 p.m. Mountain Time. Um, give or take a few minutes, depending on how on point I am that day.
Yeah.
And then you can also find both Lawrence and I on the Linus's channel, and I think all of you guys know that. But you know, you know where to find us. Appreciate y'all coming out. This has been a lot of fun, and we're definitely gonna do more of these. I think. Meantime, have a great night, and remember, YouTube, it could always be worse.
Yeah.
It could be raining flaming cobras.
That's right.
Good night.
Good night. All right, Sam. I'll talk to you later.